Microsoft's cheapest business plan and Google's cheapest business plan cost the same $7 per person per month on both sides. Same number, same currency. Both of those are the annual commitment price, though. So you are agreeing to a year on either side. And both companies charge more if you pay month to month, without printing that figure anywhere on the page you are reading. And then, the two products stop resembling each other almost immediately. I spent a while on both vendors' pricing pages this week, and the headline was never the interesting part. Two companies landed on an identical price for what looks like the same thing. What sits behind that price could not be more different. A few things separate them. Storage, where the gap is enormous. The assistant, which one company folds into the price and the other sells you. And which tier is the honest one to compare, because it is not the one either of them advertises. Two office suites, the same $7 entry price on a year's commitment, and a storage difference big enough to settle the whole argument. Microsoft hands every user a full terabyte. Google hands every user 30 gigabytes. Most comparisons skip the caveat, so let me be fair to Google here. Google's allowance is pooled. Mail, attachments, and photos all draw from the same 30. Microsoft counts your mailbox separately, on top of the terabyte, at 100 gigabytes. That distinction matters more than it sounds, because a mailbox is the thing that quietly fills while nobody is watching it. And on Google's side, every attachment anyone has ever emailed you competes for the same 30 gigabytes as the documents you chose to keep. Even after correcting for all of that, the gap stays enormous. And 30 gigabytes fills fast the moment your work has any weight to it. A designer working in layered artwork can fill 30 gigabytes inside a month, and anyone cutting video can fill it in a single afternoon without trying particularly hard. The awkward part is that you rarely notice the ceiling until you are already standing under it, mid-project, deciding which of last year's jobs to delete so this week's can finish uploading. For a team pushing documents and spreadsheets around, the same 30 lasts years, and nobody ever thinks about it again. So the storage number only matters if your files are heavy, which makes this a question about your work. Two teams on an identical budget will land on different suites here, and both of them will be right. Both suites ship with an AI assistant now. The two companies made opposite decisions about who pays for it. Google folded Gemini into the Workspace plans and stopped selling the add-on version altogether. Google's own wording is that they are no longer offering the Gemini add-ons for sale. 4 paid products folded into the base price. Prices moved at the same time. I went looking for the new numbers in that announcement. They are not in it. Existing customers were told to watch for an email. The AI arriving was the announcement. The bill was a private message. Microsoft went the other way. Copilot stayed a line item you add to a plan you already pay for. $21 on annual commitment on top of $7. On the cheapest Microsoft plan, the add-on costs 3 times the plan underneath it. Move up to Business Standard and Copilot is included, so this is a tax on the entry tier specifically. A discount drops that to $18 today. I quote the standing price because promotions end and renewals do not. Something else hides inside Microsoft's $7 tier, and it catches the people who assume that paying Microsoft means the program's sitting installed on their laptop. Business Basic gives you Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook as web and mobile versions, which is to say in a browser and on a phone. The desktop applications, the ones most people picture when they hear the word Office, begin at Business Standard, which is the $23.50 plan we will come to shortly. Microsoft does sell the desktop apps on their own for $10 a user on annual, though that version arrives with no business email attached. So most teams work out the arithmetic and end up back at standard anyway. Google sidesteps the entire question because there was no Google Desktop tier for me to price against Microsoft's. Whether that suits you depends on how attached you are to Excel specifically. That part is a judgment call, and I am telling you, it is mine. I would still weigh it seriously before moving a spreadsheet-heavy finance team across. Comparing entry plans is the easy comparison, and it flatters Microsoft. Ask the question a buyer asks. What does the cheapest plan with the AI working cost? All of these are annual commitment prices too. On Google, Gemini sits in every tier, though the entry plan limits it to Gmail and Vids. For it working past those two, you want standard. $14 a user, with 2 terabytes each, and the assistant reaching past Gmail and Vids, which is as far as Google's own page describes it. On Microsoft, Copilot is included from business standard upward. $23.50 a user, with 1 terabyte each. Google costs less, and on the raw numbers, it doubles the storage. Though the same pooling caveat applies here as it did at the entry tier, because Microsoft's terabyte still sits alongside a separate mailbox. The entry comparison had Microsoft winning on storage by a mile. One tier up, that reverses completely. $114 per person, per year. And part of that gap is buying the installed desktop apps, which have no Google counterpart in this comparison. On a team of 5, the gap between these two suites pays for a laptop. Microsoft has a real answer, and the entry plan is not it. Business Premium runs $32 on annual, and Microsoft's page for it lists Intune for device and app management, Defender for phishing and ransomware protection, and Purview for data loss prevention. That is a different category of product from anything in the storage comparison. And if you are handing laptops to staff, it is worth pricing on its own terms. I have deliberately not checked what Google's upper tiers include here, so treat this as one side's feature list only. There is a version of this decision where the price barely features at all, and it usually involves a compliance requirement, or a client who wants to know what happens to their data on the day a laptop goes missing in an airport. Both suites cap these plans at 300 users. Past that, Google quotes Enterprise on request, and Microsoft's business plans stop there, and the comparison changes entirely. Everything so far assumes a team. Buying for one person changes the answer. Microsoft's consumer plans are priced on a completely different model. Personal runs about $100 a year with a terabyte and Copilot included. Family runs $130 for a household. Read the family plan carefully before you split it with anyone. 6 people get a terabyte each. 1 person gets the AI, whoever owns the subscription. One question settles which of these you should buy, and features are not it. If your work is heavy media, video, design, archives, photography, Microsoft hands you a terabyte at the entry price, plus a separate mailbox on top, against 30 pooled gigabytes on Google's side. If your work is mail, documents, and meetings, Google costs less at the cheapest tier where the AI works, and it arrives without a second invoice. Neither marketing page leads with that split. Most teams are the second case. The reason this trips people up is that storage is trivially easy to compare, and everything else is not. So a terabyte against 30 gigabytes becomes the number that does the deciding, while the assistant sits in a different table on a different page and never gets added into the total. On Microsoft's entry plan, that assistant is $21 a month per person, on the same annual commitment as everything else here. Run that addition across a year and a team of 5, and the comparison stops being close at all. Check both prices yourself before you buy anything, because Google has already changed these, and the pricing pages are the only authority that stays current. Every price on screen was pulled in August of 2026, and the 2 vendors changed these numbers on their own schedule rather than mine. So that's the verdict. Pick the tool that wins at the one thing you do all day, and skip the rest. If this saved you money, subscribe. The next verdict drops next week.